I would like to make a motion to adopt revisions to the patron behavior policy. I'm sorry, starting with the list first. Okay. I'll do that. I move that we adopt revisions to the citing policy. As they're set forth in the revised policy, it's been made available to the general public. And those revisions include, although not limited to, Orland Park residents having priority over non-residents as study rooms become available. As you know, we all know that our study rooms get a lot of use, and to the point where we've had to limit use for 2 hours. We have no advanced sign-up, but if people from Orland Park want to use it, they get priority over non-residents.
I'll second that.
Call the roll, please.
You need to ask for discussion.
Do we have any discussion?
Okay, then. Trustee Gierach? Trustee Craig?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Ryan?
Aye.
Trustee Jennings? Aye. Trustee Drew?
Aye.
Trustee Liver absent. Now, I move to adopt revisions to the public comment policy.
Patron behavior.
Patron behavior policy. Well done, got it.
You want to read the whole
Public,
the language?
thank you. They're set forth in the revised policy with copies available to the public at the beginning of the meeting. This is a little summary of what was included there. We first of all put in the language that's just required by the current concealed carry legislation. We have to spell out ways are just not allowed in the library. We have revised the policy to provide that the reviewing of material that's disturbing to others is prohibited. We have language in there about the failure to provide adequate supervision of children, requiring that people abide by the rules for designated areas for children and teens, which is basically unaccompanied adults aren't to be hanging around in the children's area. Why unaccompanied? I mean, if you haven't got a kid, you don't belong in the kids area. We ask that they abide by the rules for attendance in designated children's programs. There's language about patrons being disturbed by another patron's activity to notify the staff immediately, so that we can have the offending patron cease the activity. And we spelled out levels of progressive discipline for violations of the rules, ranging from a warning to suspension of privileges for a week or a month or a year. And there's also provisions in there for a review if it's a month or more. There's language about gambling being prohibited, and safety and security guidelines for hazardous materials and substances.
Do you have a second to that motion?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Trustee Gierach?
Discussion, just in case.
Okay. Trustee Gierach?
Aye.
Trustee Craig?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Ryan?
Aye.
Trustee Jennings? Aye. Trustee Drew?
Aye.
Trustee Liver absent. Motion to adopt revisions to the public comment policy by revising it as set forth in the revised policy that we've made out available to the public at the beginning of the meeting. These include, but are not limited to, stating all public comment must be given in person, and no telephone or electronic means will be accommodated. It's already in our bylaws, we're spelling it out as well in the public comment policy. Speakers must sign in to identifying themselves by full name. We provide the public comment by speakers who have voiced the same concern publicly at previous meetings is not permitted. We prohibit the abuse of and harassment of comments, and personal attacks, and provide that the library will make reasonable accommodations for taping by the public.
Second.
And let's have discussion. Yes.
I have to say I was compelled by a comment from one of the members of the public tonight.
in the absence of any reference to committee meetings. And when we had our meeting last Tuesday, we did allow public comment, and I would be in favor of a slight amendment to this policy that would include public comments allowed at board meetings.
We had this conversation, and we discussed that it was custom and practice that we did allow public comment. I have no problem with including it. We do it, that's our custom and practice, although we're saying here that it's only, we're not saying that it's only required, but we are stating that it regular board meetings. So we didn't specify that public comment is allowed in a committee meeting, even though we do allow it. Since we haven't previously had a lot of public comment, and since we have had it, we have allowed it. So do you want to amend the proposal to include?
I would
remove the words regular
Regular.
monthly, and just put at each meeting.
Yes. Anybody else?
Let's have a motion to amend the first motion with the judge.
I will accept the amendment.
You have a second?
A second.
We have a motion to amend.
Yes,
And the
second to amend.
Okay. So we need then a
Roll call
motion
on the amended, amended.
to adopt the policy as amended.
Does it receive the original motion?
It's amending the first motion.
Yeah, and I personally, you know what, I do have another issue. I don't really have a problem with speakers who voice the same concern repeating themselves.
I would agree with you.
Take that out.
Take that out too.
Sure. You want to?
And that be included in the amended motion, the 2 items?
We'll get there. And how about abusive and harassing comments and or personal attacks?
No, I can do it. That's my position.
I agree with it. Maybe abusive, harasses.
Okay, so we will not
No, I
include
would-
that item, so if you can summarize it again.
Okay, we are going to vote to adopt the revised revisions to the public policy comment. As amended, which means that we are removing the provision with respect to repetition by speakers that they have spoken in the past. And we are adding to there.
We're gonna take out regular monthly. so
We're taking out regular
that's-
monthly, so just at meetings. Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Okay, trustee Gierach,
Aye.
trustee Craig,
Aye.
trustee Healy,
Aye.
trustee Ryan,
Aye.
trustee Jennings, aye, trustee Drew,
Aye.
trustee Lieber absent.
Okay.
I would like next to move to adopt the revision to the public access to electronic information networks policy. By making the revisions to the policy that are set forth in the revised unfiltered version of the policy, it was made available to the general public at the beginning of this meeting, which revisions include the library providing unfiltered access to the wired electronic information network for users 18 years of age and older, and filtered access to the wired electronic information networks for users ages 17 and under. These revisions will also add that behaving in a disruptive manner to others, using users including bandwidth use which serves to deny access to others is prohibited. Users must digitally agree to abide by the user agreement of the library. A parent or guardian must sign a user agreement for filtered computer access for children 9 and under. And all people using the computers must abide by the library's patron behavior policy.
Can we have a second? Dennis is asking about filtered and
Just
unfiltered.
did this.
I'm told.
Yeah. These are the same, right? Yeah, we just did this. So, on to the next, whatever it is.
Well, I'd like to have a discussion about that.
Yeah, I think so.
I'd like to make a statement. We've always been addressed by this, but I think I'd like to have you guys listen to what I have to say and just give me an honest, just open mind, guys, and just give me a minute and maybe try to put yourself where I'm at, okay?
Sure.
I ride my bike here constantly with my 4 young kids. This place is gorgeous, as many people have stated. This place is excellent. I bring guests here that are visiting to show how proud I am of this place. And we all should be proud. I have seen, I know the number of people that are in Orland Park. And unfortunately, I see people that are untrustworthy here. And that's just going to happen. It's a way of life now. And so now my first thing is when I come, and if I'm visiting or if I'm during the week, I'm making a sales call and I stop here to do some work, my first reaction is to go to that computer area. And I look at what these people are looking at. That's the first thing I do. That's the first thing I do when I come with my kids. I want to see who's in here. That's just me being a bodyguard. That's me protecting this beautiful place. It's me protecting Orland Park, where I decided to raise my family. I walk around, and on a few occasions, I've seen some creepy-looking people, and I chased one out. There's one guy living out of his van. So you guys, there's people out there. So I want to go back to censorship. You guys bring up great points. A lot of people, censorship, I get it, I understand. But this isn't 1960, guys. We're not talking about a National Geographic magazine. We are talking about some nasty stuff from nasty people. And please, guys, don't deny it. There's some creeps out there.
I don't think anybody disagrees with you.
Okay, so if we just put something simple like a firewall or a filter, okay, and we just watch, and they can't get to that. Now let's go back to the great points that some of these people made that, hey, what about research? In Indonesia, Dubai, or people that aren't getting that access, come see a librarian. Let's have a policy that says, come see a librarian. You sit down with us, we'll help you research whatever you have to research, whether it's for school, whether it's for your own information, whether you're doing a report on past history, whatever it might be. Let's watch them, and let's have them, but you have to come and ask. So I think that's a win-win. That protects us, it protects our community, but also, if someone's gonna want to be nasty and be a nasty person looking at it, they're not going to ask for access. Okay? But if someone wants to do a research project at school, or they're looking up AIDS and they have to look at what sex is, by all means, let's have an area and let's have a librarian help them find that research. I'm all about that. But I'm not about giving these people free access. That's nonsense. Okay? Maybe it's my age, maybe it's how my kids are, how old they are, what point they are. I realize where you guys are at. Maybe you're at a different stage in life, but think of it as a guest if you had in your house and you had an internet. And you caught maybe someone, a guest, a kid, a friend, a relative, looking at something. You wouldn't trust that person. So you either stop them from looking at that, you put up some type of barrier, guys, to stop that person. Whether it's your partner, whether it's your kid, saying, you can't look at this, guys, because this is my home, this is my right. You're you're offending me. You put that right up. Don't tell me you let your partner, your husband, and your wife look at that stuff, or your kid. Guys, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. So why are you doing it to someone that's living out of a van who's not allowed internet access at home? And for some reason, they're not allowed access. Guys, it's $10 a month. Okay, I realize there are the poor. There's the poor that can't affect that. We'll help you. But damn it, you don't need to be looking at nasty stuff. So I appreciate where you guys are coming from. I understand that there is research, but I think it's just a simple firewall filter that can block that and eyeball us, and we can just watch this. I've seen people in this library, guys, so I guess that's what I have to say. I don't know if I
Have you
made all my points.
seen people looking at pornography?
No.
I'm not.
If it was just, you know.
But I know our staff does a great job.
Public would.
I know our staff does a good job, but why should we, in 2014, we can flip a switch and we don't have to worry about, we'll keep an eye on people still, but if we can,
We're here to protect.
I have some comments as well. I have also looked at some of the case law. And my feeling is that the Supreme Court has yet to definitively rule on whether or not filtering is or is not proper. They are leaning, I think, towards, it's a First Amendment right to access the internet. But all First Amendment rights are subject to reasonable restrictions. But because we're dealing with the First Amendment, the restrictions have to meet stringent requirements. Okay. One of these is that while courts recognize that there could be legitimate reasons for limiting access, it has to be what they consider a legitimate reason. And I'm sorry, but we don't like pornography is not considered a legitimate reason. I don't like pornography. Were it up to me, we wouldn't even have 50 Shades of Grey out of ivory shells. People don't agree with me. It's a popular book. It's going to be a movie soon. I'm not going to allow you to take it off just because I think it shouldn't be there. So just saying we don't like porn. We're too high class for porn. Now, there's a difference between pornography and illegal content.
Yes.
Okay? If it is illegal, of course, we may prohibit it. And we do. But it has to be within that category that is prohibited by law. That is, it has to be, child pornography definitely is prohibited by law.
Yes.
Also prohibited is, and forgive me, but this is the only definition they'll ever give us, is material that is obscene in accordance with local standards, whatever those things.
Your attention, please. The library is closing.
If we could find a filter that covered only child pornography, and something that we could set that covered only those things which are obscene under local standards, and I think our standards are pretty high here, I'd be all in favor of it. Because we can prohibit what's illegal. Unfortunately, as far as I know, nobody has come up with that program yet. Once they do, I will be the first to move that we buy it, install it, and use it.
I'd like to also.
I'm just taking a breath. It's also legitimate to want to protect children. Absolutely, we've got to protect children. Great rationale. In fact, we are protective of our children. Let me go through with what we've got. We have separate areas for children and adults. We have separate computers for children and adults. They may not be cross-used. Adults cannot go down into children's. Children are not even allowed in the adult area, let alone to use those computers. The children's computers are filtered. Those filters may not be removed. In other words, even if a parent came to us and said, you know, I don't mind if my kid has unfiltered access because I trust him or her. We're sorry, but our policy is that those are filtered. in the adult area. We talked about, and I'm going to address these. Was it 4 years ago, 2011? It was the year I retired. I was telling you it was many years ago that I retired. It's 2011. There was someone in the library detected viewing child pornography. Our librarians made him get off the internet. I guess threw him out of the library, banned him from the library. Unfortunately, and I agree that this was in error, our policy at that time did say call the police, and they didn't do it. Yes, they should have. As soon as Mary found out that that had been omitted, she re-educated the staff. Fast forward to 2013, we get a complaint from a patron. She doesn't go to up in the computer area, she comes down to the front desk, to the information desk, and says, I see a man up there looking at child pornography. Our librarian picked up the phone and called the police. The police responded. The police went up, spoke to the man who was not on the computer. He said, don't know what you're talking about. Tried to find the lady who had seen it, because it's, he said, she said. Couldn't find her. Subsequently, she returned to the library. Librarian called to the police and said, the witness you're looking for is back. She's here. They came and they talked to her. She denied seeing child pornography. In fact, she denied reporting that she saw child pornography. Now, I don't know what more we could have done once she withdrew her claim to have seen child pornography. That's 2 instances. I believe that our staff are responding appropriately to this. In addition, we now, at the libraries, at the computers upstairs, if a patron wants to use the computer, they must present to the technicians seated in the area at all times a photo ID which includes their birth date. The librarian or the technician takes the ID, keeps it, is very careful to say, thank you, Mr. Smith, glad to have you, so that he knows that the technician or librarian knows the name. And they keep that ID the whole time that the computer is being used. So that if anybody comes up and says, the guy on computer number 8 is looking at porn, aha, we gotcha. We got your name, we got your address, we got your ID. We have also instituted that non-residents of Orland Park, while they will allow them to use the computers, may do so for 1 hour only, 1 hour a day. And they pay a $3 fee, which is, I think, not allowed to charge more. That's me. Which has, believe it or not, cut down considerably on computer use. Because they only pay $3. We do have screens on the computers, which are needed to, if there are some people, I think it's foolish to do, but they come here and they access their accounts or they pay bills online. So we need those filters to make sure that nobody can see their privacy stuff, so they can't see their numbers. But walking around, you can see, in general, what's on the screen. Our technicians have been instructed, and they do it, that they are to circulate through that area no less than every half hour. They're to walk around and look and see what's going on. Now, I had to talk to one yesterday. I think he's been with us 5.5 years. And he said, you know what? once I saw somebody looking at something they shouldn't have. You know what happened? He told him to shut the computer down, it was offensive. And the man did so. It wasn't illegal, it wasn't child porn, but it was something that could be offensive to somebody else. It was shut down. Because we're dealing with the First Amendment, we have to adopt the least restrictive means available to accomplish our legitimate purpose. I think we have already reached the least restrictive means possible to accomplish our purpose. That's my personal opinion. I don't expect everybody on the board to agree with me. In fact, I'm sure that everybody on the board does not. But I believe that the First Amendment requires me to reject the idea of filters. It's not a popular decision, I know. But I took an oath when I took office here to uphold the Constitution of the United States. I thought at the time, but it would be killed. I'm just a library trustee, for heaven's sakes. Little realizing that I would be called upon to do so. But then I also thought, well, gee whiz, maybe we are out of sync with the rest of the world. Maybe we are ultra-liberal. So our staff went and they looked for us. And they gathered statistics about what other libraries in this northern Illinois area are doing. And I can tell you that 10%, and we usually looked at 110 or 112 libraries, 10% do filter both children's and adult. Slightly over half, we'll only call it half, it's like 56%, do not filter children's or adults. Which, of course, we don't necessarily, well, we don't agree with when we do filter the children's. 75% of these libraries in northern Illinois do not place filters on their adult computers because they believe, as do I, that our adult residents of Orland Park have a right to access what is legal if we are going to allow internet access at all. It would be one thing if we could go out and buy access that didn't include, I want this bundle and this bundle, but don't give me the bundle that's nasty. You can't. When you buy the internet, you buy the internet. So people saying, I don't want my tax dollars used for that. The only way we could not use your tax dollars for that is if we don't have internet access. We have to spend more of your money if we want filters. And that's not a deciding factor for me. If I thought that filters were the right thing to do, and I think these people do, feel the same way. If we thought filters were the right way to go, then we'd find money to cover the cost. But I truly and honestly believe it's contrary to the First Amendment.
Anybody interested in hearing from the RWK, our professionals, regarding filters? I'd like to.
Well, yeah, maybe, but how about you
Yeah,
guys?
well,
Ian?
wait a
What's your
minute.
thought?
I'd like to say something. I'm gonna make it short and I'm gonna make it real sweet. Me being on the board, my job is to protect the community. And this is supposed to be a safe place to come to. People should feel safe. This is like almost a playground area. People want to come here and enjoy and feel comfortable. And if putting filters on a computer is going to make people feel safe here, I'm all for it 100%. That's it. You can see that.
term banning about tonight. It's very important in our community. I don't necessarily look at this as a First Amendment right because I think over the years that we've been a country that Constitution has endured changes Are there things happening, Dan, that we don't appreciate, that we don't approve of? Absolutely. Are there people doing things that we would rather they didn't do here? Every time I go in the women's restroom upstairs, I think about things I have observed in that restroom that I would rather not discuss publicly. Because there are people using our library as resources for other things than finding information. But I don't believe that voting for filters that have not been proven to be reliable, or that have not been proven to be dependable when it comes to disallowing the access that we're seeking to prevent, is the right way to go. I believe in the public's right to find out information. That's why I became involved here, and that's how I vote.
Can I add something? I forgot, it was on my notes that I meant to say, and I forgot. I know, it's terrible. I can't shut up. I want to address the claim that, I think,
Well, hang on, let's still have this discussion, right?
yeah.
I'm not done talking about it, but I'd like to say, guys, we're not filtering it completely. If someone feels they don't have access, let them go ask the librarian and go get it.
It's discriminatory.
And that is, I think that our critics have described the Orland Park Library as a masturbation parlor. I believe that would be news to the other 499,592 people who come to this library every year. Because our patronage is about 450,000 visits every year. And I would like to address the two incidents that Mr. John brought up. The first one, the supposed public masturbation, was a young teen who is unfortunately mentally disabled. He was seen in our lobby touching himself. He was clothing, but touching himself. Like a child would do, 2-3-year-old when they gotta go potty. It was reported by a patron. The librarians took the complaint. They knew the child. Could they have called, he was, early teens. Could they have called the Orland Park police and asked if this handicapped boy be charged with public masturbation? Yeah, they could have, I suppose. Our librarians instead chose to deal with it humanely by contacting the parents, letting them know what was going on, asking them to please work with their son to teach him appropriate behavior. They did so. They are frequent visitors to the library. They figured out a cue to him, which would tell him, put your hands on the table. They taught it to the librarians. No further problems. Some people may say you should have called the police. I think the librarians made the right choice. Second issue, very recent. A man was here in the library. Someone approached one of the librarians and said, there's a man exposing himself. Librarian called the police. Also called Mary Weimer. Mary went down, recognized this gentleman, as the frequent patron. He was dressed sloppily, as unfortunately he sometimes is. Told Mary, he'd just come in about to cut his grass. He had old, dirty, ripped shorts on. And indeed, Mary noticed that there was a rip in the crotch of his shorts. And you could see his underwear. Now, I think somebody online who wasn't even there said he had his penis sticking out through a hole in his shorts. You could see his underwear. shouldn't have been, it was offensive to people. Mary spoke to him and said, sir, you're gonna have to put your legs together or do something. You have a rip in a very unfortunate place in your clothing. And we have called the police. The gentleman panicked and he ran out of the building. Never been back. I don't expect Mary to tackle people and hold them for the police. Now, we have the choice of either letting him sit there exposed until the police got around to getting here, or have Mary say, please cover yourself. Good job, Mary. That's our public masturbation epidemic.
Nancy, how about you? And I'd love to have this discussion, but because of the open, policy of Open Meetings Act, they have to have it amongst everybody, so.
Right, no,
Do you
I want to hear from RWK on the efficacy of filters.
What would you like us to address? On the agenda?
No, I'm asking for their help. This is our filters expert.
Is there a filter that we could buy that would filter out only child pornography and only material that meets the standard for obscenity set by the United States Supreme Court?
We have to check with the vendors for their current releases and what they offer with their product line. There are numerous products available. Some are library industry specific, some are not. There are a sampling of vendors that we talked with that purport that they will block some 20 to 30 million websites worldwide. And depending upon where you look today, the statistics are that there are 500 to 800 million websites active. And if you do the math, the best vendors' numbers would represent filtering about 0.6% of websites. So it's dependent on the moment in time and the vendor's release. I can't answer that specific question because we have to look at that product as it exists today.
Okay, thank you.
Do filters do any good? Are you just against filters?
No, I don't have a bias for them or against them. We work with clients who make decisions based on their business needs, their administrative capabilities, because there's administrative requirements by staff and for setup and for policy, and also for their investment profile. So we would do whatever you wish as far as helping choose a product and evaluating it, and allowing you to make an informed decision.
With this filter, you can go around it at times and say, you know what, this is censorship, you're censoring this research on Coca-Cola or on a painting.
And it would help, it would stop a lot of people from going on porn sites. Would it make it more difficult?
I'm sorry, would you repeat?
Would it make it more difficult to access?
Well, it's clear that if someone tries to get to a site that the filter is blocking, but it blocks it, it works. And there are some systems that will enable staff to, on demand, release it for a specific patron at that moment in time.
Okay, but if we did go to a staff member and say, I would like to access this, can I get permission? How hard is it to, for them to do that?
Some of the products enable them to do it by just logging into the administrative interface and acting right then and there.
So 2 minutes maybe, 5, okay, 2 minutes, 2 minutes at a time.
How much would this filter be? Average filter, how much is the average filter cost?
Price-wise, a few $1,000, depending on the product.
But did you hear him say it only blocks 6%?
But it still makes it harder. It still makes it harder. Makes it harder.
They block, by today's standard, 0.6% of the known sites on the planet. The service that you pay for enables the vendor to have a team of people who find new sites every day, because that's what people who have bad sites do, is they just come up with new sites. And the service that we pay for, not just the device, but the ongoing service, enables the vendors to keep it up to date every day. Much like what you might have on your own personal computers with antivirus software. You can get infected because of a virus being brand new, and filters might have a problem from time to time with a site being allowed through because it's brand new. But that's the service you pay for, is a team of people who are trying to find them every minute of every day and stop access to them based on their definition of what the category is. So some filters might have a category for pornography, and it could be broad. You have to investigate that. Some might have a category for nudism, and you have to make a determination on, does that constitute being a part of pornography or not? So it would get a little bit, it would require some administrative work on the part of staff to learn those nuances and continue to work with them.
And this is something that's constantly changing, right?
Sure.
Listen, we're never gonna get it, never, ever gonna get it. And there's gonna be another bad person coming up the ranks or doing something else, so we're never gonna get everything. But if we can put like a small move, especially now, why not? Especially if we feel like we're gonna hurt someone's research and they can come to us and we can take that off. We're not doing anything wrong.
In 2 minutes, we take it out.
Not anything, guys, I mean. We're not talking about going to the Art Institute and looking at, a picture of David, that he's naked, right? We're talking about people that are coming here for a reason.
I guess our concern is that there are some, and we would have to, if we decided that's what we wanted, we would have to be certified. That there are products out there, as you say, about pornography, would block the statute.
Come and tell any employee, say, I want to see David. And it's done.
So then, and we're also,
Call me up, I'll come here.
yeah, we're also, I think, invading the privacy of our people.
Yes.
Who has to come and tell you why they want it lifted. That's their business, not ours. What, as to why they want it lifted.
There's nowhere else they can go. Why? Nowhere else they can go from there. How about going to, well, I used to do, how about us growing up, what did we used to, we go to encyclopedia.
When I was going to the next
Encyclopedia.
I think earlier, it's like a thing, I think.
And listen, the library, the employees are doing a great job, but
They
they're
are.
not, they're not.
And
And neither am I when I come in and try looking for these
I
people.
know. The problem is when you're looking for people, we're kind of on a fine line there, because there's some case law out there about just because they look scummy,
I just look at the computer. I
doesn't mean
I
they
go
go
right
on your
behind, I go right behind.
They have to actually do something. Or they spell so they have nobody can sit next to them. So that was case law. You cannot throw people out of the library because you don't like the way they look. That's talking about filters.
Pro or contract.
Talking about
You don't know.
filters.
That's right.
I've already voted, yeah, I'm not gonna change my vote.
And Nancy, how do you feel? Because
I'll take a vote. I think it's appropriate to allow adults unfiltered access. So if our discussion is over, then let's take a vote. We have a motion out there?
Yes, we have a motion
Do
now.
we have a second?
We already-
Yes,
yeah, but we don't have a full board.
Board meeting.
What about, yeah.
Are
We
we,
have a quorum. We have a quorum.
Trustee Gierach. Aye. Trustee Craig.
No.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Ryan.
Aye.
Trustee Jennings, aye. Trustee Drew,
No.
trustee Weaver, absent. Did we have